Today I'm reacting to your Backlash 2025 Hot Takes. Hot Takes is a weekly video series where I give you all a platform to be able to voice your thoughts, whether those are good thoughts, bad thoughts, or everything in between about the world of professional wrestling. So if you'd like to be featured in the next episode of Hot Takes, make sure that you're following me on X because I ask for your hot takes there after every episode of Raw, SmackDown, and every single WWE Premium Live event. Which, by the way, the next one is Money in the Bank, so it's a big one. And as always, don't forget to subscribe to this channel, ring the bell for notifications. If you're a wrestling fan, I am incredibly confident that you're going to fall in love with his YouTube channel because we always upload daily wrestling content. And don't forget, if you are looking for more than just daily wrestling content, to come over to the Patreon, patreon.com/SantiZap. Over there, you're going to get so much more extra content that we can never upload here on YouTube because it would just get blocked due to copyright because we use actual raw footage. So again, come check it out. Link in the description, link in the pinned comment. Let's read your Backlash stupid shit. I truly believe that the show from top to bottom was great. All of the correct decisions were made tonight. We didn't get Cody Rhodes, and I'm fine with that, but R-Truth being the reason why John Cena retains the title, it's deja vu all over again from WrestleMania. Look, I agree with many of the statements that you're saying here. I also agree that Backlash was a solid show from beginning to end with great matches, and ultimately I do believe that all of the correct winners walked out of the show as winners. I also would have liked Cody Rhodes during the show. In fact, I felt like they set him up perfectly to return when John Cena grabbed the mic after beating Randy Orton with the help of R-Truth. That being said, I just can't get behind the sentiment that this is at all comparable to the ending of WrestleMania 41. I can't get behind that. I understand that it's another interference victory for John Cena, but at the very least, this one was actually like properly built up to. At the very least, R-Truth is an actual in-ring combatant. At the very least, R-Truth didn't spend 45 minutes getting to the ring. It was a quick appearance from R-Truth. He took an RKO. It lasted 10 seconds, and that was enough to ultimately sway the decision towards John Cena's side. But it wasn't this nasty, long, drawn out, frankly boring ending that WrestleMania 41 had with Travis Scott. And it's certainly not as egregious either, considering this was a title defense on a B-tier PLE, unlike the WrestleMania situation, which that was for the 17-time World Championship record-breaking win. I think that the two are entirely just not comparable. And if you wanted to compare them, I felt like the execution of the R-Truth angle was done infinitely better and far more entertaining than anything that they did with Travis Scott, considering they also paid it off immediately after in the press conference with R-Truth getting hit with an AA by John Cena. By the way, you're not the only one that shares this sentiment. I'm seeing several people compare this to WrestleMania 41, and maybe I need to see it in a different angle, in a different light, because right now I just don't see the comparison between the two, aside from it just being an interference victory. And if that's the case, like if that's your problem with it, then you just don't like interference finishes, and I guess fair enough. But comparing interference finish to interference finish, the one with R-Truth was so much better. Let's also not ignore the fact that this was very much teased and built up on episodes of Friday Night SmackDown. I can't compare the two. Zero title changes, not even 3 hours long. This kind of felt like a glorified house show. How is SmackDown longer than a premium live event? Okay, but that last part, let's not even consider the idea that SmackDown is good simply because it's 3 hours, because we've seen that SmackDown has actually been bad, and in many cases, it's because it's 3 hours. So me, in my head, I'm not married to the idea that a wrestling show has to get to 3 hours for it to be worth my time, because SmackDown has simply single-handedly demonstrated that that's just not the case. No title changes, fair enough. If that is your barometer for moving the needle and moving storylines forward, then yeah, this would be underwhelming, and this could feel like a show that didn't necessarily push the envelope or really change anything for you in terms of day-to-day watching of your favorite WWE programming. But even though there were zero title changes in the US Championship match, we had a debut of a brand new character that brings about a ton of questions and once again re-elevates Solo Sikoa to maybe the conversation of the main event or going after the United States Championship. The women's match was an open-ended finish, sure, that gives us the opportunity to explore Lyra Valkyria versus Becky Lynch, and I'm sure you would agree that that's not a bad thing considering how good that match ultimately was. I will say I do feel like a little bit of a dead end, even though the match was entertaining, was Gunther versus Pat McAfee. I have no idea where that's gonna go. The IC title match I felt did feel like a little bit of a glorified house show type of match, but the main event was one of the more bananas, most overbooked booked fun main events that I've seen in a while. So I feel like there is a lot to like, even if it didn't reach the 3-hour mark, and even if there were no title changes. I still feel like it moved the needle for me. John and Randy are my two GOATs, but I can't lie, I didn't expect this match to be great from an in-ring perspective. This match not only exceeded my expectations, but blew them out of the water. Easy 4 stars. I think you and I are pretty much on the same boat. I was totally okay with this match just being not good and pretty much entirely relying on the power of nostalgia. I was ready for that. However, what we got was honestly a lot of fun. And these guys worked really well within their limitations. This was never going to be a technical fest, a super fast-paced match, but they turned this into a big old finisher fest, a big old showcase of nostalgic moves that people are going to pop for, like STFUs, AAs through tables, AA is getting countered into RKOs, Randy Orton going crazy and RKOing people left, right, and center. It was all of the greatest hits of the childhood memories generated by John Cena and Randy Orton. And on top of that, you've got the crazy kooky ending with R-Truth that does give us a lot of reasons to talk about this match. And honestly, you might have just gotten the best Randy Orton John Cena match that they've put on, and they did it in 2025 at their oldest. Last time ever, and you ended with a random R-Truth run-in. I almost missed Travis Scott because that would have at least made sense. Disappointed. In what world would Travis Scott have made more sense than R-Truth? I'm sorry, I don't get it. And I'm disagreeing with this sentiment because it's a sentiment that's like quite apparent online. And this is what Hot Takes is about. It's for us to be able to debate. Clearly, there are two sides of the aisle, and I'm over here and some of y'all are over here. And I don't see this as a random interference. Like, it was very much built up to it with episodes of Friday Night SmackDown. If you haven't been watching Friday Night SmackDown, it might feel like a random out of nowhere run-in, but it just frankly wasn't. We even had an interaction between R-Truth and Randy Orton literally right before Backlash. So random, it absolutely isn't. Is it worse than Travis Scott? Hell no. Like, no. People have their reasons for not liking Pat McAfee, but this match wasn't as bad as people expected it to be. Pat can make a good match when needed. Look at his work in NXT. This match was exactly what it needed to be, especially with the no-show of Goldberg. To be fair, the Goldberg expectations was pretty much just us as fans, and we created this expectation because we looked at this match and we kind of just asked, why is this on the card? And we all just logically said, well, duh, to set up something bigger for Gunther, and that something bigger logically would have just been Goldberg. However, because they didn't do that, then we're pretty much just completely relying on the merits of this match. And even though the match was solid, I still feel like this match needed to have a post-match angle to help us understand what was the purpose of this and what does this match ultimately do for Gunther, who is the day in, day out performer. I agree with you. I feel like the match was way better than expected. It was a lot more competitive than expected as well. It definitely was a lot of fun, and it relied on some great storytelling narratives with the involvement of Michael Cole and the resilience of the everyday man that is Pat McAfee. However, I still felt a little bit underwhelmed with the post-match angle with Gunther showing respect to Pat McAfee. Like, what was the overall character development of Gunther here? What was the purpose of this? I still don't know. Again, if you want to tell me that the purpose of this was just to have a fun, entertaining match, then I go back to the earlier hot take that some of this stuff maybe did feel like a little bit of a glorified house show. Santi, I know it may seem like I'm whining here, but this El Grande Americano gimmick is getting stale now, and Penta being screwed again really isn't helping his build as a single star, in my opinion. Let's talk about the second bit a little bit first here, where you say that this isn't helping Penta being built up as a single star. I actually think that they're done with Penta being built as a single star. I think that they're already seeing the road ahead, and the road ahead is merchandising the hell out of the Lucha Brothers when inevitably Penta and Rey Fenix get together. It was a fun singles run, but I do think that Penta's singles run is about to come to an end. And at the very least, from the contextual clues that I've been given here, considering pretty much all of the Penta matches over the last several weeks have ended with him having to deal with 2-on-1s, 3-on-1s, 4-on-1s. The best way to help even things out is for somebody to come out to help Penta, and who better than Rey Fenix, his real life brother and former tag team member. So I think that eventually the move is going to be away from Penta being a single star into a tag team star. But El Grande Americano, what are you bored of here? I mean, they've barely really even scratched scratched the surface. I still feel like there's just so much more. Are you bored of the fact that they keep doing the same thing with the headbutt and the metal plate? If that's the case, sure, I would like to see them do a little bit more than just continuing to rely on that, because they're relying on that heavily pretty much every single time that El Grande is there. But in terms of the character, I actually want to see a lot more. I want them to explore a lot more of El Grande Americano, because I still feel like they're scratching the surface of what they can do here, especially with AAA already being under the banner of the WWE and TKO now.
Oh my God!
Oh! Okay, that's
I was
filthy.
sick.
That was... And beautiful. Man, I love that spirit bomb. Oh yeah. Woo! Oh, that, folks, was a sneak peek of this week's Wrestling is Cool Match Club, available exclusively on patreon.com/SantiZap. This week, we're looking at maybe the most insane backyard wrestling match that I've ever seen from BXW Backyard Wrestling. John Cena versus Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 23. CM Punk versus Raven from Ring of Honor in a Clockwork Orange Funhouse match. Keith Lee versus Penta from AAW Pro. And Will Ospreay versus Speedball Mike Bailey from TNA back in 2021. You're going to be getting all of this, plus the Raw reviews, the SmackDown reviews, the Wrestling is Cool podcast 3 days earlier than everywhere else, the currently ongoing Royal Rumble watch-alongs that we're doing, and now we're starting a new series where we're watching every single John Cena WWE Championship victory of his career. So come check it out. That's patreon.com/SantiZap. There's a link in the description or a link in the pinned comment. I'm confident that if you try it even for just 1 month, that you are going to fall in love with the content and the community. But that's enough. If you're already a patron, thank you so much for your support. Let's get you back to the video. Backlash was better than WrestleMania. Funnily enough, I feel like this has been a narrative pretty much over the last 3 years that Backlash has been better than WrestleMania. And don't get me wrong, like Backlash has just been a great show. However, I feel like there's a big difference between Backlash and WrestleMania. If you want to just talk about it from like a pound by pound perspective, you know, a 5-match card of Backlash versus what WrestleMania offered, then yeah, you could say that Backlash over the last 3 years has been a much more balanced show with very little lows compared to WrestleMania's lows. But I also feel like it's a little bit unfair because there's a lot less expectations out of a Backlash compared to the expectations of WrestleMania. I'm going to say Backlash was great, but comparing it to WrestleMania, it's a tough one to do. You can tell it's killing John Cena not being able to interact with the fans, especially with it being the last time in each town that he goes to. Those, quote, "thank you Cena" chants definitely got to him tonight. I mean, do you blame the guy? This is a guy that's been interacting positively with crowds for so long, and for now all of a sudden for him to have to turn that switch off and pretend to not care about the fans, like it's got to be a difficult thing that eats away at him. I have to imagine at the very minimum. He also probably wasn't expecting a positive reaction at all, considering he was in enemy territory in the home turf of Randy Orton, and he was still getting "thank you Cena" chants and still getting pops, people chanting you can't wrestle, and then the majority of the arena replying yes he can. Like, I really thought that this was going to be the place in the venue and the opponent that would get Cena universally booed, and it seems like it was not possible. Like, the fact that we couldn't get Cena universally booed here has me concerned that it's just never going to happen for the rest of the retirement tour. I feel like Jeff Cobb is going to start Bloodline Civil War Part 3 with Zilla coming in to help Jacob, then maybe Hikuleo would join Solo, then make it a 3-on-3. Journey Vatu would join Jacob and Zilla. Yeah, there's a lot going on here. This is just to remind you that there's still an infinite amount of Bloodline members and people that could be adjacent to the Bloodline that could get recruited. So yeah, I feel like this Bloodline vortex, it ain't going anywhere, folks. Low key, just solidified my opinion that Cena's heel turn has failed in the traditional sense of a heel having real heel heat. It's obvious the crowds can't bring themselves to boo Cena, especially when they know that they won't see him wrestle again. There is absolutely truth to what you're saying here. It is, I guess, in a traditional world, as you're saying, if the heel is the favorite in the match, as the heel is getting cheered, if the heel can't get like genuine heel heat, then is it a successful heel? Is it a successful heel run? That's a fair question to ask when it comes to John Cena. It's funny because I said that this very thing that's happening right now, that no one would boo Cena, I predicted that it would happen. And then in the European tour, he was getting booed out of the building. So then I retracted it and said, well, I guess I was wrong, but I guess I turned out to be right. I do always believe that the power of nostalgia is a hell of a drug. It's such an instant gateway to a better time in your life when things were simpler, and seeing John Cena as a champion is an easy, instant teleportation to back in the day when you could just chill, relax, have no worries, have no job, have no responsibilities, and enjoy John Cena wrestling in the PG or Ruthless Aggression era. And if a wrestler or anything is able to elicit that type of like real, raw human feeling, it's difficult to turn against it. So I'm very curious who else is going to be put in front of John Cena here in this path towards his retirement, because I feel like the names are very few and far between that could actually out fan Cena, be the one to actually get more love from the fans than Cena is currently getting, be the one to actually get Cena booed. I feel like maybe CM Punk is like the only one at the moment. Cody Rhodes, I don't know. Cody Rhodes is where things turn. So I feel like this is just going to be the fan engagement and interaction until the end of the retirement tour now. It needed the Jey Uso versus Logan Paul match to feel like a pay-per-view and complete the event, as it just felt lackluster. The main event and the four-way match was good though. I will continue to say that Logan Paul versus Jey Uso was ultimately meant to be on this show, because you're kind of right. Like when I look at all the pieces of this show, I felt like it fit like really, really nicely in Backlash. Was it like missing it to make it a successful show? I disagree with that statement. Was it missing in a way where it could have made the show better and a little bit more productive and less feeling like a glorified house show, as some people are saying? Perhaps. Poor R-Truth. Don't know about others, but his childhood definitely died today. Well, I do feel like that was the representation of childhood dying. They were maybe a little bit too on the nose, with John Cena saying that on Saturday our childhoods would die, and we literally got the physical manifestation of it with the guy who John Cena is his childhood hero getting AA'd through a table. Again, a little bit too on the nose, but nonetheless intriguing, because I do want to see what this does to the dynamic of R-Truth's fandom. How does he continue to interact with Cena? Will he continue to defend Cena even though Cena literally destroyed him in front of everybody? Who knows? But again, albeit a bit on the nose, it was a poetic way to quite literally kill, the childhood that Cena was talking about being executed on Saturday's show. I'm so glad that we got Jeff Cobb. Bro's a beast. Hopefully they portray him the same way that they did Jacob. I mean, I think that they will. This is a pretty monumental big way to be debuted, completely bypassing NXT and going right into the main roster. Really, very few people have been able to do that. Jeff Cobb now joins a very small and elite list. I also think, funnily enough, that Jeff Cobb could probably outshine Solo Sikoa as well, much like Jacob Fatu ultimately outshined Solo Sikoa and pushed him down the card. Even though Jeff Cobb now all of a sudden helps raise the stock of Solo Sikoa and makes him a bit more important, I feel like with enough months and with enough shine on Jeff Cobb, he's also going to outshine Solo Sikoa. I was expecting Goldberg in the Gunther and McAfee match, but he didn't come out. What are your thoughts on what's next for Gunther? Yeah, so it is kind of problematic when you're off the back of a B-tier PLE that's like right after WrestleMania, and in the results, you can't tell where any of the characters are going to go. Pat McAfee, back to commentary, so back to square one. Gunther, I don't know. Again, so many of us were just so married to the idea of Goldberg coming out so that we would know what's next for Gunther. This match did nothing to tell us what's next for Gunther. Again, the match was entertaining. I like the story that they told, but now Gunther is just like Pat McAfee, back to square zero. I don't ever want to hear, quote, Becky Hogan again. She helped Lyra get the needed connection with the crowd and had Lyra defeat her clean. They worked well together and it made for an amazing match. Charlotte and Tiffy, take notes. Is anyone going to stop this man? Because you can't. This is nothing but facts. I fundamentally agree with everything that you're saying here. I've always thought that Becky Hogan was a dumb saying to begin with. I also think that Sammy Hogan is dumb. I think that calling anybody, quote, Hogan is stupid nowadays. If you ever hear me say it, it's literally memes and I don't actually mean it, but people genuinely mean it when they talk about both Sami Zayn and Becky Lynch. But Becky Lynch completely proved everyone that this is just the dumbest nickname ever. Like you said, put over the younger talent, made her look good. Not only did she put over the talent in terms of the match result, but put over the talent by helping her finally connect with the crowd, a crowd that she struggled to connect with. And now I really think that come Monday Night Raw, Lyra Valkyria is going to be one of the more over baby faces in the women's division, and it is in very much because of Becky Lynch. So yeah, I'm with you. Stop this stupid narrative. This match was fantastic. The best technical match of the night. I want them to run it again. It finished open-ended with the pinning sequence where Lyra Valkyria didn't really like beat Becky, but more so outfoxed her. So it does open us up for a sequel here. We still have Bayley waiting around the corner somewhere. So there is still much to like here and much to look forward to. Unlike Gunther, where there's just nothing to look forward to. All right, folks, thank you so much for watching this quick, short episode of Hot Takes. I needed to make it quick because my internet is a complete mess. I can barely make videos that are anywhere near as long as I'm used to. But anyways, that's it. I'm done. Get out of here.